All right, my name is Chris Tody, and welcome to Central Arkansas Astronomical Society's monthly meeting. Uh, this is our September meeting, monthly meeting. Can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay. Sean, can you hear me?
Yes, you're coming through loud and clear.
Thank you, sir. I'll learn to speak up. Okay. Like I said, I want to welcome all y'all out here this evening. If there's anybody that's here for the first time, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Richard, and as I said, I looked at the star map and there's like Neptune and I think Saturn that might be visible at night, and I don't have a telescope to see them.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Lauren, and I've been a member technically since high school, but I'm just now starting to come to actual meetings. So, yeah. Yes, this is Justine, and I also work at Lehman Library, and I'm trying to rope some of y'all into coming out for my family night in October. So,
all right. So if y'all didn't just pick up on that, if there's anybody who wants to help me going out to the friend and family night in October, I'd appreciate that. And moving right along, is anybody working on any projects that they want to bring up and where they're at in their projects at this point?
Darcy got her master's outreach thing, and Carl and I have applied for ours. We hadn't got ours. Next, how many hours? 165 or something like that. No, 150 above your base. 150 above your base.
Is there anybody else working on a project they want to talk about?
Excuse me, who is that? Who is that was talking?
That was Rocky.
Thank you.
Rocky Togney. Hope I got that correct, Rocky. I'm bad. All right, and we have a reporter too. Okay, well, come on up here, Darcy. Okay, Darcy and Carl are going to come up and give us a report on where we're at with the eclipse, if I'm correct.
So the places we've been since last month's meeting, August the 19th, Darcy and I set up the canopy, display table and all that for the, excuse me, the Mount Nebo chicken fry. And Darcy did the chicken dance when the music came on. Let's see, August 26th. Al Hegel and Jerry.
Or Phil.
What? No, it was Jerry.
Okay.
Okay, August 26th, we had the Pinnacle Mountain Star Party. So we set up inside for a 10-minute program, we were told, about the October 14th partial eclipse. And then since it was cloudy, we ended up taking a break and at 7:30 doing the full Arkansas Experience 40-minute presentation. Yeah. So we entertained the people inside. It's air conditioned. Everybody wanted to be inside. It was so hot outside when we came out, somebody like even our president was gone. August 28th, let's see, we went to the Jacksonville Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association to their meeting and did the Arkansas Experience presentation to them. August 31st, we did a training class for people that are leading an eclipse event at the Lehman Library, and this is where it's time for Darcy to do her commercial.
Well, we're going to have another training event this Monday, and it's for people who will be helping to lead an event. It will be people who are going to be answering science questions. It's for working with kids. If you are going to volunteer with a school, or if you have kids or grandkids or neighborhood kids, anybody 4-H, you want to work with. It'll answer your questions, we hope. Also, tonight is the last meeting before the annular eclipse. And if you need eclipse glasses, I've got them. Let me know and I'll get those for you tonight. What else?
On this training class she's talking about, you're going to say, if somebody says, oh, you're in the astronomy club, they're going to pull you over. So it's not something you are planning. So you need to come learn some of this stuff and even help us adding things to it. So we showed pinhole projection. Darcy did eclipse modeling with Oreo cookies, where you have the white part of the cookie being the sun, and you're moving you split them apart, and you're moving the other one across it. And then you realize that hook that you see visually is really a straight line as the moon's moving in its orbit. And it's one of those aha moments for me. Is old part here, found out something new. So I had the Astroscan telescope. She has showed solar projection, the Sunspotter telescope doing the sunspots. If you've never seen the projection of the solar image by a mirror, then we've got two of those set up, where you can kick it into a building or on a side of a building from way out in the parking lot. And like when it goes a long distance, it's a bigger image. It gets dimmer, but it's a bigger image. So if you've never seen a real image made by a mirror, not just a reflection looking in the mirror and seeing something, but actually, the mirror throws that image goes through a focal point, you end up upside down, or however you call it, like a real image does. But it's front surface mirror. That's the other thing. The quality of the mirror makes a big difference. I have one from a makeup mirror from a purse, and it works real good. But the mirrors that are like at Hobby Lobby that are now plastic stuff, they leave a fuzzy image. They don't give you a clear edge. Yes, works like a pinhole. And so with it being front surface, where I sent to some company wanting some samples. Well, we didn't need a big one. We just need a little, like she said, 3/4 inch. Let's see, September the 5th, we went to the Saline County Library, did the children's story called Moon Bear Finds the Shadow. We can show you the book. It's not part of that training on September 12th or September 11th. You said 11th. But it starts out with about shadow puppets and gets the kids' attention. Then you switch over. Okay, now when the moon shadow lands on the Earth, that's what causes an eclipse. Then let's see, that was special needs kids at Saline County Library. Then at the Rooker Library on Otter Creek Court, this was homeschool kids. We did the same program with them, and went outside and used the sun spotter and looked through the solar viewers at the sun. Okay.
Yeah, we've put the clubs. We've put the club's hydrogen alpha telescope to good use. A lot of people have enjoyed looking through it.
What time is that thing on Monday?
30 to 3:30. Lehman Library on Monday, correct? Day after tomorrow. Come on in. It's worth it. You'll enjoy it. You'll learn all types of things. All right. Was there anybody else working on a project they wanted to speak about right now?
I got something I want to say. We've got all this stuff up here in the front of the room. Space heaters, fans, telescopes, club decals. I don't know what all. There's all kinds of stuff up there. If you see something you can use, take it. If you feel guilty, put a little money in the brown box in there in the kitchen. There's also books in the clubhouse in there on the counter. Take a look at those. No need to feel guilty about them. If you see something that interests you, take it. We need to sort of clean this up. We got too much stuff to jettison. State sale. And this too. Yeah, we got a telescope here. Somebody might.
And there's even one or two scopes up here. Or 3 or 4, actually. All right. Well, moving right along. Rocky, would you like to start with your presentation, sir?
I gotta start it. Gotta start it. All right. No. Oh, I'll do it. I'll just tap it right there. Okay, this is about starting your own lunar observing program. And it's been one of my favorites for a long time. It was my first Astro League award. This is better. Back in 1996. But anyway, astronomers have a love-hate relationship with the moon. If you talk to somebody that likes to do deep sky photography or even look at deep sky objects, they try to find a way to get away from the moon. They do it the other 2 weeks of the month. But the Astro League has a really nice and it's basically their easiest program, and you can learn the moon in a short amount of time and have a lot of fun doing it. And the thing is, you can do it in light polluted areas. It doesn't matter. You can do it in, so you can do it in the city or in town. Just find an open space where you can see the moon most of the month, hopefully from your yard somewhere. No special observing skills are required. It combines naked eye observing, binocular and telescope observing, so you get skills in all 3. And minimal equipment is like a 7x35 pair of binoculars and a small 60 millimeter refractor. People have done their program with both of those. I recommend a little bit bigger, but those will work. And we'll talk about both of them here in a minute. First of all, you can get the naked eye moon and learn the phases of the moon. Go out and watch it nightly and see how much it progresses every night. And when it moves about 15 degrees a night, so it rises about 45 minutes earlier. Depends on where in the orbit it is as far as the ecliptic, because sometimes the ecliptic is fairly vertical to the horizon and sometimes it's horizontal. So that 45 minutes changes plus and minus. So you get to learn the movement of it night to night, and you can actually see the Maria and the Highlands pretty easy just by looking at it. You know, the dark areas. If you got good eyes, you might be able to make them out. I don't have that good eyes, so I have to use a pair of binoculars. And also some of the rays you might be able to see, but you probably have to have good eyes for that. But binoculars bring them out really well. And here's the first page, and I want to talk about a couple of those. And this is about the simplest of the programs that the Astro League has. All you have to do is record the well, I guess my thing is record the date and the time, the scene, the transparency, and location. You know, if you do it from home, I just put home there and give them one latitude and longitude. And if you do something different, do it somewhere else. They accept that. But it's interesting. Have any of y'all ever seen a moon less than 48 hours? Or you don't know if you have or not? Darcy have. But I've got it on here later on. So you've got to plan a little bit. It takes a little planning to do this. And that's part of the fun is planning. And then some other things or some fun things like the man in the moon, the woman in the moon, the rabbit in the moon, cow jumping over the moon. I like the woman in the moon, the rabbit in the moon. Those make sense to me. And then the Maria. And you can do the naked eye with binoculars, which is what I would recommend. Because you can see it a lot better. But you can try it with naked eye. With binoculars, if you're looking at the full moon, you can see a lot of smaller Maria, which are the dark areas. Sinus, Pallas, and Lacus, which is marsh, bay, and lake. And there's objects on the moon that have those names. Bright young craters, and if you look at the moon, this thing doesn't show up on that, but you see the bright spots. When you're looking at the moon, look at the bright spots. Don't just look at the craters, look at the bright spots. Those bright spots are the newest craters on the moon. Like Copernicus, which is, you can see it there. It's got an arrow to it. That's about 800 million years old, or about 1 billion years old. And you can see all the white splayed out around. And that's where the under the original surface was kicked out and laid all around. And you can see Tycho there, and it's got rays that it actually extend around about half the moon. And you can see one of them going through Mare Serenitatis up at the top there. And these are all objects that are some small craters, especially the ones that are dark. Those are lava filled craters, just like the Maria. And so those are actually signposts that are pretty easy to find with binoculars. But these are just some of the basic things you can see and start learning them. I like to get people to learn them, mainly learn the dark areas first. Like I wish my pointer was working, but Fecunditatis, Tranquillitas, and Serenitatis, Mare Imbrium, Oceanus Procellarium. Oh, I can? Okay. So here's Fecunditatis, Serenitatis, Tranquilitatis, where Apollo 11 landed, Serenitatis. Then you got Mare Imbrium right here that generated several mountain chains, but these two especially, the Apennines and the Caucasus Mountains. Here's the Sinus Iridium, which is really pretty and really nice when you catch it right in the telescope, watching the parts of it, the shadows and stuff. Anyway, go on. And so here's like for binocular objects. So there's a section on binocular objects. And then with telescope, you need to, and with binocular objects too, you need to know what the terminator is. And the terminator is the light and shadow between the dark and the light areas. And just like your shadow in the evening when the sun's real low, you'll have a long shadow. There's long shadows on the moon. And so you can see a lot more detail. You can see a great detail with the lighting correct on the edge, on the terminator. And different see different kinds of craters with your telescope. This one on the right is a lava filled crater that was formed back before lava filled the craters, which is about 4 billion to 3.5 billion years ago. And then this is a newer crater. I think that might be Copernicus with edges that are scalloped and then central peaks, and then just plain craters. So there's different kinds of craters there, and same thing. There's about 5 pages of these. There's 100 objects altogether, 100 things to observe. And this is a little handout. I've got a few of them if anybody wants one, just to learn the basic, like the basic mares or seas on the moon, and then the important the bright craters. And then you can just about once you learn these things, it's easy to find the other things that you have to find. Okay. So see young and old moons can be a real challenge. You need a good eastern or western horizon. You need to get there before it's time to see it and set up whatever you need to set up, kind of figure out where it's going to be, and carry your binoculars with you. And if none of you see that, here's the moon right down here. So this is a 1.3 day old moon. So what would 0.3 be? About 7 hours. So that's about 31 hours, Darcy. Oh, really? Yes. And Mercury is the one high up, Venus and the moon. And that was on May 23rd, 2020. So it wasn't that long ago. But you got to kind of figure out when it's going to happen and be out there looking for it.
So what's the youngest thing you say?
I've seen one younger than this. I think I saw one 19 hours old one time, and that's 19 hours from new. So that was on the other side. That was early in the morning. And that's 2 of the requirements. You got to see one in the evening and one in the morning. So you have to get up early for that. So you got to plan good. And if Venus is, I like to use the astronomy apps to get the location on the horizon and start looking maybe with binoculars before you can see it naked eye. And then here's some things to help find your way around the moon. Orion's got a nice laminated map. It's not that expensive, but they charge $10 shipping. But if you order it with something else like an eyepiece, then you don't have any shipping. Virtual Moon Atlas I use a lot. That's just a software program that's on your desktop, and it's really good. It's got some things I wish they'd improve, but I've been using it for about 15 years now, and it helps a lot. And then one I've added in the last few years is Lunar Map HD on my phone, and I very seldom use maps anymore. I just use my phone most of the time. But what I do is I plan what I'm going to see with the Virtual Moon Atlas usually, because it'll show the moon just like it's going to be, and you can see what's on the horizon. And there's a lot of it'll show you you click on an object, and one nice thing about it is it gives you a lot of history on the objects. It tells you how big it is and stuff like that, but it also tells you some history on it, who it's named after and stuff like that, and some more information. What period of time it was created in, because the moon's 4.5 billion years old, and there's like 5 different periods of the moon, so it tells you which period it was formed in. And so an observing plan is start by becoming familiar with the moon. Take a little thing like I had there, where you just start learning the seas so you can kind of find your way around. Observe it with binoculars or a small scope and learn the large mirrors and significant craters. Start with the lunar cycle about 3 days after new moon. And this is what I did back. I read a book by David Levy back about in the early 90s. And he said, you need what he said to learn the moon. And he, you go out every night and look at it because for, during a period, just go out and it doesn't take that long. You spend more time planning for it than you do planning to see what you're going to see. So what you want to do is see the objects that are on the terminator. So every night you have a different group of objects to see. And then every night go out and plan which ones you're going to see and do it. Then note them on note. All you have to do is put the time. You don't have to sketch them or anything. Just put the time on them and repeat it nightly until full moon. I've got one more thing, and that is binoculars. They've split a lot of these programs up. You can actually earn a binocular award with the lunar program. And that's just by doing the naked eye and the binocular stuff. And it goes towards earning the binocular master observer award. You don't get the pin for just doing the binoculars, but I did the regular, and then I came back and did the binoculars later on. And I was going to show you my setup. Okay. So, Jim's built a beautiful contraption that you can set up and go out everything. Well, I can grab this and it's not as good as Jim's, but it stabilizes it enough to see split double stars with it. And what it is basically a Walmart tripod, and I got a thing off Manfrotto little thing that goes on top of it, so you can do it like that. You need to do it like that, and then you can actually sit down in the chair and look straight up almost. Just have this resting on the ground, but it's amazing how much stabler you get just by having one rest. But that's a cheap way to do it. It's not, and you can grab it. It's one you can grab and go. So anyway, I just wanted to show that because that's the way I do binoculars. Thanks.
Thank you, Rocky. All right.
If anybody's interested in doing the program,
Thank you, Sean, for putting that out there.
Yep. I put a flyer or a sheet of Rocky's observations he had sent. So
I'll send it out. So if I don't have it free copy,
Just have it.
I'll put it out to somebody else.
All right, it'll be just one moment, folks.
y'all know how the man in the moon gets his hair cut? Eclipse.
Every once in a while, you could really.
All right. Well, I'll wave it around if it does. Yeah, I'll work from over here in the corner. My name is Doug Wilson, and I'm trying to find a spot without an echo. I'm going to talk about our the upgraded system, a robotic telescope, remote robotic telescope. All of you have access to it, if you remember. So, on the laptop. Now I'm texting. Well, anyway, gotta get to where I can see the screen. So we have had a robotic telescope on this site, this observatory. The construction started in 2014, and first light was 2015. It was a cooperation between Arkansas Tech and CAAS, and we set up a system with a 12-inch Meade LX200 and I forget ST9 or ST10 camera, and we were doing pretty good, but we had the opportunity to expand the capabilities of that. The previous system really wasn't didn't lend itself to making pretty pictures. Okay. And a lot of people are interested in that. It had some limitations. And I know that we had the opportunity to get a pretty good chunk of money to improve the whole system. So the way this worked is NASA funds the Arkansas Space Grant Consortium, which is a collection of universities in the state. And they give out money once a year to these universities. And the idea is to help their space-based or their astronomy or whatever they're doing in science, to help their programs, to give students an opportunity to use equipment that they wouldn't normally use or have access to. Well, anyway, it just so happens my former boss runs the program. So talking with him, I knew that they were really interested in getting some kind of scope for the universities in the state that they could use for educational purposes. and I knew about what our budget would be. Not exactly, but we had to write a competitive program. We had to come up with a good design. And one of the things that was important to NASA, you get more points if you meet their program goals. And they have a program called Exoplanet Watch. So we wanted to be sure we could do exoplanet observations with this system. And so with the, it's Matthew, can't think of his last name, Matthew at at Arkansas Tech, he's actually the principal investigator, but we put together the program. A lot of work from Bruce and Danny and Stephen and myself and Matthew, and we put together a program, and it was funded, and we started on, gosh, I don't know, has it been a year? It seems like it's been a year. It's been a year. It's been an unbelievable uphill battle. I mean, the camera went bad and we had to send it in. The scope went bad and we had to send it in. We tried one kind of software and it didn't work. And then we had to learn to do a lot of things. But the day has come. We're ready to sign as many people up as we can. So we're ready to go here. One of the deals, we are going, because we're putting in the sweat equity to run this thing, we're going to be able to let everybody in the club use this, and we have the facilities here we're providing, and so that's the deal. We're working with them, and we're going to have. We know we have probably at least 3 universities that want to get students involved in using this scope. Okay, so how did we decide to spend that money? Well, the first thing is we wanted the biggest telescope we could get. That was just seemed obvious. As it turned out, the limiting factor was how much weight the mount could handle. Because we could afford a bigger scope, but it just wouldn't fit on that and operate. So we got the biggest scope that would fit. We got, and I'll show you the scope in a minute, but it has a wide field of view, and the field's flat over that entire field. So it's really good. We wanted to spend a lot of money on the camera and get a really good one. We got a state-of-the-art back illumination technology CMOS camera. Why do you want to do that? The quantum efficiency, for those that understand that, is about 90% in green light. In other words, almost every photon that hits that camera gets counted. We wanted for the imager 16-bit, low noise, fast readout. Well, that's CMOS. And we also got a new computer system thrown in there. There's the telescope. It's a Dahl Kirkingham, which means that's top notch. That's got the best images you're going to get out of a 2-mirror system. It's F6. It's got built-in dew heaters and heat control, and it weighs about 100 pounds. And that's just under the limit for our amount that we have. So we went from a 12 to a 14.5-inch scope. Okay. The camera, that's when you subtract off the price of the scope, which was a pretty good chunk of money, that left us down to a good camera, and we chose this SBIG Illumina AC 2020, which is 2048 by 2048. They're 6.5 micron pixels. We also got to choose the window. We went with the one that included infrared. So we got infrared capability with this. So it's 380 to 900 nanometers. And that's, from blue on out into the infrared. And let's see. Okay. So we were limited with our filter selection on the last scope. Now we have a 12-place filter wheel. We have 11. We have these first three, B, V, and R, are Johnson filters for photometry, for science. Luminance is kind of like your black and white. That's all the visible colors. And then I is an infrared. The blue, green, and red there are for good pictures. They're a little bit better for taking pictures than these three up here. Then we have hydrogen alpha, oxygen 3, and sulfur 2, I think, spectral lines, if you want to do any of that stuff. Now, in addition, one of the problems with the previous system is that the off-axis guide camera was behind the filters and it was built into the other cameras. This, we bought a Star Chaser off-axis guide camera, and the pickoff is in front of the filter. So we don't have to do any kind of, there's no consideration for which filter you're using. It sees the same regardless of what your filter selection is. It has SPG AOX adaptive optics, and that is, it does some degree of canceling atmospheric fluctuations. It will track out slow imaging distortion caused by the atmosphere. Okay, we also have a rotator on the camera, so you can frame up your image any way you want to. So you just set all that and then tell it, go take a picture. Any questions? Okay, well, let me keep talking. Now we get to the part that caused us some head scratching about what to do. And we looked at this camera and it's got all kinds of modes. Basically, it's a 12-bit camera, CMOS, but we wanted 16 bits. So this camera's got a sneaky way of doing that, but it can be a little bit confusing till you get used to it. The other thing, it's got gain control, high gain, low gain. It's got dynamic, like your cell phone camera, dynamic range image exposure. It takes some bright ones and then it takes some dim ones and works it all together into a single picture. So anyway, the problem is, and this is kind of what took a while, the software, the camera's way ahead of where the software is. Camera's got a lot of capability, but we can't use it easily and automate it at the same time. So what we did is we picked one, it's called the Stack Pro mode. And so what it does, the camera takes a 12-bit image and then it turns around and takes as many as 16 consecutive images. And since those are about 1 second duration, telescope hasn't moved. So it stacks the images inside the camera and hands you the 16 images. So a lot of you, if you're not doing imaging, what does stacking mean? I mean, you take a picture, you take another picture, you overlay them, and you add them together. And then take a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth, and you add them up. And so what happens is effectively you're taking 1 second exposures, but if you take 16 of them and stack them, it's like 1 16-second exposure. You get essentially the same result. And the noise of the camera is pretty low, so it really works out. Okay, so if you're using it, and I'll clear this up in a minute here in the next slide. It's smart enough to know that if you tell it to take a picture that's 1 second or less, it can't stack them. So it just takes that picture. But it backs down to 12 bits. Okay, so if you're taking a 16 second, then it'll do 16 images for you. So you kind of have a gap there where you don't use it between 1 and 16 because they're almost going from 1 to 16 is almost the same exposure. And that was probably clear as mud, but here's the bottom line. You don't have to worry about it. You just take your picture. Okay. And if 16 is overexposing, drop down below 1. And just at this point, the best thing to do is trial and error. So start out at about 16. If it's overexposed and you don't like it, go down below 1 second. Now the camera, we can set exposures down to 0.1 second. And that's a limitation of the software, not the camera. The camera can go down to 0.01, I think. Okay, one other thing, I'm trying to get through this in a sense and make sure I'm communicating it. But if you take a 1 second exposure and it's halfway exposed, and then you take a 16-second exposure, you've just got 16 of those halfway exposed added up, or if you want, averaged. And so it's also a exposure depth of 50%. So almost except for the averaging, 1 second and 16 are the same result, roughly. Okay. Again, you don't really need to worry about it. Okay. So one of the things we had found out, I guess I've said this, but one of the problems was MaxDL is software that runs the camera. It's very common, and the problem is you can set one mode and you can't change it from the web interface, the ACP, the telescope web interface. So you don't really get to choose which mode. So we chose the high gain stack because it was flexible. It would give us a good stack, 16-bit approximation, and it would also handle shorter exposures. I'm going to skip this part. This is kind of technical. Except one thing I wanted to point out. This says 1 ADU per 1.5 electrons. What that translates to is with a 90% quantum efficiency, 90% of converting a photon into an electron, and then almost 1 ADU count per electron. This thing is almost counting photons. Every photon that hits registers well, if 3 hit, you'll get 2 ADU changes. So it's so close to just counting photons. It's almost at the theoretical level of the best you can do. And that was really a motivator for picking that camera. Okay. Here's the bottom line. What do I decide to do? Well, one of the things that we have to deal with is this CMOS camera technology's new stuff, and it doesn't work like the CCD. So what you have to do is, for the best results, you have to have what's called the dark that matches your exposure. So what we have is a list of standard exposures where we've set it up, calibrated it, and they increment in small amounts so you can adjust your exposure. And so here are the ones that are 1 second or less. And here's the 16 seconds or greater. And we decided to quit at 374. That's a pretty long single exposure. Most people that are doing imaging to take pictures take a bunch of short exposures and put them together by stacking. And the reason is, if an airplane flies by, you throw out 2 or 3 and it doesn't mess up your picture. You don't have a trail across your picture. So taking long exposures is not really such an important thing, except maybe when we get to use the narrow band filters like the hydrogen alpha or something like that. You gotta use a long exposure to get much through those. Okay, so now,
Doug,
yes.
I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
For the dark frames, are they taken at one temperature or multiple temperatures?
They're all at the camera operating temperature of minus 10 degrees C.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so there's another thing that happens. If we have exposures, then this is somewhat arbitrary, could perhaps change it down the road. We have 62 seconds. Well, anything above that, the cameras, the tracking and what have you doesn't quite stay on it, and it's not quite as sharp a picture. So after that, at 74 and above, the guide camera kicks in. So you have to set up the guide camera, otherwise you have a high percentage of failure. If it can't find a guide star and you've told it to guide, then it's going to just say, oops, there's a problem here. Next observation, please. So I'm going to talk about how you set that up and use the rotator, but you basically use the rotator to set up your guide star. And then I've done this, you can track for hundreds of seconds and it'll be dead on the whole time. It'll just stay locked on to the same point. Okay. Any questions? I get scared when people don't ask questions. Yes.
Talking about the earlier you said the camera can rotate and we can frame our pictures. We have to do that in the PCP software. We do that in
Stellarium or Aladdin? Stellarium or Aladdin? And I'm going to show you Stellarium. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they're just longer. So 31 seconds divided by 16 will be the exposure length. When you get in, okay, so just a comment, if you tell it 5 seconds, 5.5 seconds, it's not going to blow up. It'll take 5.5 seconds. And what it will do exactly is take 5 exposures of 1.1 second, which adds up to 5.5. But the problem is that's a nightmare trying to come up with standard darks and bias. Okay, because they're changing, it changes a lot every time you take another frame, you're adding another frame of dark current and bias current to it. So that's a technical, the guys that take pictures probably can get that pretty quick. But so the best thing to do is just stay out of the bushes. Do it the easy way, and this is it right here. If we get into the narrow band filters and we find out we need to go more than 374, well, we can fix that.
If I do an exposure of 30 seconds, does the dark default to 31?
I believe the answer is no. I think it does 31 or 37. I'm not 100% sure how it decides which one, but it'll pick one. And I've done that. And quite honestly, the difference between these two is minimal. So it probably won't make any difference whatsoever. But I just.
I didn't know if that's why I was getting noise on last time.
No, I don't think so. The noise, the dark noise is about 1 ADU count per second. So if you're off by 4 or 5 seconds, it's only going to be raised it's not going to cancel out exactly. It'll be 4 or 5 counts off, and it might be a little noise that way. But I don't think it really, I'm hesitant to say that it won't make any difference, but that's the way I kind of feel about it. But the recommended strategy is what we've implemented. So do that and you're safe. You got the best. So there's a picture of the scope. It's a beauty, and I just took that this afternoon. This is the light panel for calibration, and on the back side here is all the camera, rotator, focuser, the whole thing. Somewhere on top of this or over there is the computer. The computer rides on the telescope now, and that's all the dangling dangling cables. Okay, so there's the back end, the camera, the filter rotator. I think that's the guide camera stabilizer. And there may be something wedged in there. I'm not sure. Bruce has had it apart, so.
Things sticking up there on the system. Guide camera.
That?
Yeah, I think in front of it is the
rotate.
Focuser?
Adaptive optics here. Okay.
Great thing.
Yeah, filters. All right. And where's the focuser? Is this it? Or is it back up here? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, fun. Okay, so how do you get started? Now we're down to business. I was talking technology. Now let's talk how to. And everybody should be able to, take care of this. Now I can send this information. Okay, Stephen Caldwell is the guy that he puts your name in and sets up your password, talks to you about how to set up the Dropbox. Sometimes people have sent him stuff and I don't know, maybe it went into his, not his trash bin, but what do you call it? The junk spam filter. They may send it to me and I'll send it on to Stephen. So what do you need? You need to talk to us to get your account and a password. You have to sign up. You have to have Dropbox. We tried to use OneDrive because we're paying for it up here for our Windows stuff, but ACP wasn't going to have any of that. So after a month, we gave up and said, well, back to Dropbox. So you have to have a Dropbox account. You create a share folder. You give that information to Stephen. He sets it up. When you run your program, your data shows up in your Dropbox account the next morning after it runs. Pretty easy. And we'll go to this. This is the website, and we'll go do that here in just a minute. Well, that's, yeah, right. Am I dead over? Okay, so this is a good, I'm going to stop the PowerPoint, and I'm going to talk about how to, I'm going to go to Stellarium and talk about setting up framing and imaging. And then we'll go look at an observation and even glance at some data that I took. And if we're about out of time, how we do it? Okay, well, I can certainly talk longer than I need to, but all right. I'm going to share again. And here's Stellarium. Okay, so Stellarium, let me go up here. You can set up, here it is. You can set up your a lot of information about your telescope so that you can see what you're going to see when you go out. And so you have to set up the telescope for this system, which is the AG optical 14.5. You get that information, and then you use this model right here that I created. And right at this point right here, it says rotation angle. Okay, so let's look and see what that actually does. Let me pull that out of the way and zoom in. Okay, so that's I think that's M50. Is that M51? All right, so there is the field of view is 18 arc minutes on a 18.6. It's down here. This is the right up here is the J2000 coordinates that you need to put in to tell the camera where to take the picture. And this is what you're going to see when you take your picture. We go up here and turn on the off-axis guider. And let me get back down here. So here, this ring represents all of the positions that the off-axis guider could take. This square right here is what the off-axis guider is going to see if you set the position. Let me set it to 0. Okay. So that's if you don't do anything, that's the orientation of the camera and the off-axis guider, which is it might see that star right there, but if it's a little bit more to the right, well, you probably wouldn't catch a star to guide with, and it'll quit. So no guide star, no deal. Okay, so unfortunately, you have to put in your rotation angle as negative for stellarium. I don't know why. It's like, are you looking at it from behind the camera or looking at it this way? How do you define positive and negative? It's backward. Aladdin is correct. This isn't, but Aladdin doesn't work well. Okay, so I'm going to type in a number like -10 and watch. You see the little square move? Let's go back up. There's the camera. There's the guide camera. So let me go back and put in 0. And now let's put in -10. And there it is. Okay, so now let's look at our picture here and do the same thing. And so let's do -30. And then I'm going to pop back to 0. Just a minute. I want you to look at that. Well, having fun with my mouse. All right, see it went back. Let me turn off the guide camera just a minute. Now you can see a little bit better. Let's say you want to change that quite a bit and go to -75, and that's the way you wanted it to look. So you just key in using this. You just key in what angle you want to rotate the camera. Even if it does a meridian flip, it figures all that out, and it fixes it for you. So you're in business. You can frame up your images. You can swing that guide star camera around to hit a bright star, and you're good to go on guiding. Okay. So what do I need then to set up an observation? Well, there's your coordinates right at the top of the box. It's in J2000. It's right ascension declination. You put that in. You take your if this says -75, you want to put +75 in the program, and that's what you're going to get. Okay. Any quick questions on that? Yeah. Let's go look at 5 minutes. Good. All right. So the part about entering the okay. So let me just whiz to the oh my goodness, finder recents. Stellarium preview. Hang on a minute. What's that one right there? Oh, there we go. Okay, so you basically log into this, and I'm going to give you the really fast rundown. You go right here, you create a project, and then we have documentation. We have a text that's on our website, and you can kind of follow that, or I can do another talk and record it. you create a plan. So this one then, so this is, you tell it, there's some things that you just put down, you give it a name. And then, how come I'm not, okay, wait a minute. I don't know where it went. Maybe I need to refresh. Yeah, that's what it was. I haven't been using it, so it didn't like me. There we go. So you create an observation, and the observation, you tell it, you put in right here the coordinates, you put in the position angle, that's your rotator, and then you tell it how many times you want it to repeat. And then down here, after you do that, you create the image sets. And so this is a blue filter, 44-second exposure, do 3 of them, perform a calibration, remove the hot pixels, send me the data. That's it. So if you can use a website. Yeah, right. And so here's so any questions? Let's just stop right there. Let's stop right there. I can go into I can record you a step by step. That's not a problem. I'll probably need to do this anyway. But I ran out of time. I was doing Stephen wasn't able to get here and do this part. So I volunteered to do it. I got some more to say, but yes. Yeah. It is. Yeah. I don't do that, but there is a text-based way that you can put it in. Yeah. So maybe you could give a talk on that.
I use series all the time, just set it up and go back to
Tweak it. Yeah. Okay.
It's like a first come, first serve thing. I mean, it doesn't have traffic. It barely has traffic.
Let me say, I have one plan that takes 500 images of a transit, and it just takes, that's all it just sits there and does, images 2 a minute for about 4 or 5 hours. Just bing, 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 bing. You need a lot of storage room in your Dropbox if you're going to do that one.
Doug?
I pay for the commercial one because I'm messing around with these transits. But if
3 ones, the 2 big ones.
Yeah, that'll.
I do 30 stack 30 images, but all 4 filters.
Mm-hmm.
It's about fills it up.
Yeah. So
you gotta take it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll be able to shoot. Well, we could use your drop. There's different things. His email I'll fix it to.
Okay, great. I mean, I'm glad to see the excitement here. I think some people might be interested in using this thing.
Hey, Doug.
Yes.
Doug, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is John Reed. Couple quick questions. So if I'm understanding this correctly, we can control the exposure length. We can take multiple exposures. And
yes.
But it just gives us the raw data, so we got to do our own stacking and all that, but no calibration.
No, it'll calibrate. It'll calibrate, yeah.
So the calibration's already done.
Well, there's a checkbox for that.
Okay. Well, what do you do if you don't check that? Does it give you the calibration, like the flat files and stuff?
Oh, you get the raw data, And you can download, we make the calibration files available. So you can do anything you want. However, I think even if you don't check the box, for some reason, it'll calibrate them. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay. All right, but it doesn't do like live stacking or anything like that, I guess.
Not on the images you specify, only the 16 internal that's 16 seconds and above. Those are all stacked images, and the stacking happens in the camera.
Okay. So that's actually live stacking in the camera as long as you're over 16. Oh, I see what you're saying, but that's only up to the 300 seconds or whatever.
Yeah, the camera will go for 30 minutes. We just don't want to have all the, I mean, there's no need for that much, those long of exposures.
Okay. So it's live stacking, but it's internal. It's not anything we control or do anything to.
No.
Okay.
You can then take the 16-second and stack those.
Okay.
Just like that. I mean, it's just an image.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does it send you? Does it send you the little ones or the stack result?
It actually, you punch the right buttons, it sends both calibration and raw.
Okay. All right. Thank
So Doug,
you.
Okay, Doug, whoops, whoever's there.
If it's 16 seconds or larger, it's stacked. If it's less than 1 second, it's not stacked.
Doug, a real quick question, or I should say a suggestion. In the past, with the old system, there was two things. There was on the website, there was a nice instruction manual, if you will, telling people how to use the RRT. And there was also a downloadable PDF. Are we going to have both of those available?
We should. I think it's been upgraded. That's Stephen's responsibility. And I was looking at that today, and I think it's there.
Okay.
The ones that have talked about doing the command line type entry, I know that's explained there, and that's probably where you guys learned to do it. I just never did. I went to the web interface lazy. Any more questions?
An elementary one, I guess. It sends you a folder that's got all the raw images in it.
Mm-hmm.
About 8K in size.
8 meg.
8 meg in size, yeah. But then I get a whole bunch of other files that are just regular. I guess they're the calibrated.
They are the calibrated
but
ones.
they're twice the size. Why do they get?
Because it's going from 16-bit to floating point 32-bit. It's a computer math thing. Yeah. I don't know how to turn the raw thing off, but you could save some space if you could. I could throw them away. That's usually what I do. Any other questions? All right, super. I'm afraid to do this, but I was hoping a few people would sign up sooner. All right, great. Yes, ma'am. You're still in there. Same password.
Does take pretty pictures.
Doug, thank you very much. All right. Does anybody else have any announcements, anything like that before we wrap up? Once again, if you have time, go out to the Lehman Library Monday at what time? 1:30. The workshop on to help out for the eclipses, both the one here in October and then also in April. And thank y'all once again. If you, I see somebody in the back here. Yes, sir.
Anybody interested in learning to use
Okay, if y'all are interested in the refractor of the 12-inch tonight, the nice gentleman back there, you know, that's about 23 with the blonde hair. He will show you how all that works this evening. And thank y'all for coming out, and y'all go out and observe for a little bit. Thank you.